Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to the Chai Tea Tai Chi web show. Today, I am your host, Andrew Brown, and we're joined by Dane Dormio, the founder of Chai Tea Tai Chi. So, Dane, how you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you, Andrew?
Quite well. Just got a new puppy, so I'm a little tired, but that's okay. I can handle this.
Tired but happy, no doubt.
Yeah, tired but happy. So, we've been chatting a little bit and getting on to Qigong and meditation. And the topic came up during our chat about is Qigong and meditation, can you do them parallel? What are they really? Can you define them? So I wanted to have this little discussion about, can you do Qigong and meditate at the same time? Is this even possible?
Yeah, I think this is an important thing to discuss because for people who want to get into this stuff but aren't sure where to start, a lot of people are kind of looking for certain benefits like stress reduction, like feeling more peaceful, less anxious, improving their health and wellness, physically, psychologically, spiritually. And these meditation and Qigong are very closely related as mind-body practices and provide a lot of very similar benefits. So some people don't really know a lot about Qigong, but they've heard about it and they think it might be good for them. Same way with meditation, a lot of people don't really know a lot about it, but they have heard about it and think it might be good for them. So what I want to do is kind of explain what the differences and the similarities are, and tease these out a little bit and explain how they work together, because it's, to someone like us, if you say, can you do Qigong and meditate, it's kind of a silly question, because meditation is a form of Qigong, or Qigong is a form of meditation. I mean, whichever way you want to look at it, they're both equally true. So every time you're doing Qigong, you're meditating, or every time you're meditating, you're doing Qigong. But they have kind of different connotations in people's mind as far as what they mean and what they consist of. So what most people think of when they think of meditation is most commonly sitting meditation, stationary meditation, where you're sitting, and there's there's various schools and techniques of that, but it's what we would call stationary Qigong in a sitting position. And what people think of as Qigong is you're standing up, moving around, moving very slowly, certainly, and perhaps stationary some of the time, but it's also, it's not just meditation, it's also exercise, which it is. But what Qigong and meditation have in common is the three regulations, and this is what makes them both mind-body practices, is that the three regulations of Qigong are body regulation, breath regulation, mind regulation. And all three of these regulations necessarily exist within meditation as well, although in most forms of meditation, the mind regulation is what's emphasized. But posture is also a part of you. When you're doing seated meditation, you're supposed to be sitting a certain way, the spine erect, the hips level, and certain things that are certain elements of posture that are most conducive to doing the mind regulation work of meditation. And likewise, the breathing is also an important part of it. There's certain ways you're supposed to breathe, certain ways you're not supposed to breathe, certain modes of breathing that are conducive to the spiritual work of meditation. So meditation necessarily involves mind regulation, breath regulation, and body regulation. Therefore, it is a form of Qigong. And Qigong, of course, is not just breath regulation and body regulation, it's also mind regulation. So anytime you're practicing Qigong, if you're practicing it fully, it also is a form of meditation. It might be a moving meditation, but you're meditating while you're doing it. So so overall, these things are more similar than they are different. But there are some important distinctions to keep in mind, and for those who don't know, I'd like to go back to the origin story of Qigong, and actually the origin story of the Shaolin Temple, which comes from the stories about a figure named Bodhidharma who brought Buddhism from India to China, traveling through Nepal, and the story goes he came to this particular temple where the monks there were practicing lots and lots of seated meditation, and they did it so much they had weak constitutions, so they were sitting all the time, and it wasn't good for their body. So they could cultivate certain states of awareness, but they weren't tending to the needs of their body, and their bodies were wasting away. So he taught them a particular set of exercises, the what are known now as the 18 Lohan palms, and specifically for the purpose of strengthening the muscles and the tendons and the sinews, for strengthening their bodies, so that they could get more out of their seated meditation practice, so that they could actually sit in meditation for longer, because they were outside of that, they were doing these exercises that were strengthening their bodies. So the body, if you ignore the mind and the body are go together, they're two sides of the same thing. So if you meditation and spiritual development is not about neglecting the body, and because if you neglect the body, then the mind doesn't function. So so for any kind of spiritual practice, I think that that taking care of the body in meeting the needs for food, sleep, movement, etc., is an important part of the groundwork for spiritual practice. It's a very important basis. And so if you're practicing for spiritual development, or if you have a seated meditation practice, then you can look at your Qigong as sort of complementing and supporting that, by enabling your body to be healthy, thus enabling your mind to reach higher states of awareness. And then the other way they complement each other is that Qigong, as I said, really includes stationary Qigong in any number of postures. It may be standing, it may be sitting, it may be lying down, and Qigong itself is a very broad umbrella that incorporates all types of energy practices, but they're classified into two main types, which are the external energy work, which is Wei Gong, which is mostly what most forms of moving Qigong, most of what people think of as the Qigong exercises that involve moving, are Wei Gong, which are developing the external energy field. And then there's the Neigong practices, which focus on internal energy development, the movement of energy inside the body. And most Neigong practices are stationary. Often they're seated, or they might be standing but stationary, or with very, very small, slow, gentle movements. So generally, the external Qigong practices emphasize more movement, and the internal Qigong practices emphasize more stillness. And in a certain sense, if you as one progresses with their Qigong practice, if their main focus is on spiritual development, then it will progress in that direction from external to internal. So you'll start off doing a lot of movement and external energy work, but as you reach higher states of refinement and cultivation, then your awareness will go more inwards and become more attuned to movement of energy inside the body and the subtle sensations. So just saying that to say that that Qigong and meditation are not by any means mutually exclusive. They're very complementary, and the important thing is understanding, why you're doing what you're doing. What is basically there being a match between your intention, your purpose, and the practice you're doing. And that's why, of course, it's good to be guided by a teacher who can help you get the most out of your practice for the specific benefits you want. The one caveat that I would make to this, where there could be a potential conflict, is that there are many schools of meditation outside of Qigong, outside of Taoism, that may have their own kind of restrictions and requirements. For example, Vipassana meditation, which is a Buddhist meditation, teaches that you're supposed to dedicate yourself to this practice and not do anything else. So if you're a dedicated Vipassana practitioner, you're not supposed to do other forms of energy work or things like Qigong. So there could be, in certain schools of meditation may have their own kind of restrictions, but overall, meditation, including stationary meditation, is part and parcel of Qigong practice, and the moving and the still practice are very complementary. And depending on what your goals are, you may emphasize one more than the other, but they both have benefits.
Yeah. Okay. So the way I've always seen Qigong is the moving, like the Wu Qin Shi, the Bhagwan Jin. It's a moving practice, usually balanced breathing practice as well in there, but it's about getting the blood to flow, stimulating the meridians, getting your organs to move around a little bit to just improve your health overall. Meditation, though, when you see a meditation class, it's usually a lot of it's just kind of sitting around with the very light music on, maybe someone talking, but everyone's just kind of sitting there, just eyes closed, having a grand old time behind with their eyes closed. So, like you were saying, we kind of have to define what each term means, especially whenever you're talking about meditation. You have to kind of define what you mean when you say meditation, because the simplest form of meditation is just pure awareness, just being aware of the current moment, aware of your breath, aware of your body, and now you're meditating. And just be aware of that and hold that awareness. Where Qigong, the easiest Qigong I've ever seen is more difficult than just sitting there and holding your awareness. So I would go as far to say, of course, yes, they are one and the same, like you said, very overlapping. But at the same time, I would say that Qigong is much more of a health practice, where meditation is more of a mind practice. Like meditation is much more focused on the mental state, where Qigong is more focused on the general, on all state, but more on the health awareness, being aware of your own health. What's your own function today? Can you even stand up and do basic movements? If you can stand up and do basic movements, you're helping yourself. But if you're stuck in bed, it's like, well, I can't get up and do that. Let's just do meditation. Let's do some breathing meditation and sit still. So that's how I make the distinction. So I wanted to ask one more thing is, what kind of meditation practice, you mentioned Vipassana. What meditation practice do you do right now? What's your daily routine on meditation?
Well, actually, I do practice Vipassana.
Mm-hmm. But you're not allowed to practice anything else.
Well, it's kind of like the old joke where the man says to the priest, "Father, may I smoke while I pray?" And the priest says, "Oh, absolutely not." And then the guy thinks for a few seconds and says, "Well, Father, is it okay if I pray while I smoke?" And the priest says, "Oh, of course." If I were to go to a Vipassana workshop or train to be a Vipassana instructor, they would tell me don't do anything else. For me, I'm a Qigong practitioner. I learned these Vipassana techniques that I enjoy and think are great and very powerful, and I incorporate those into my practice. I don't claim to be a Vipassana teacher or anything like that. There is so what I do is, you're getting back to your question about my daily practices. I have a collection of mind-body practices that include the staples of move, breathe, and contemplate. So on a daily basis, ideally, I'm doing some type of breath work, which I do the Wim Hof method as a regular practice, and I'm doing some kind of exercise, physical movement, which is calisthenics and or skill training, and doing some kind of contemplative work, which is sitting meditation or perhaps a guided meditation in place of an afternoon nap, like lying down and listening to guided meditations or binaural beats or that sort of thing. And ideally, all three of those in some form will show up in your day. Not everybody. We have different kind of requirements and restrictions on our time. And if you can't do all three of these things every day, that's okay. That's what is so great about Qigong, because in 15 minutes a day, you can get your exercise, your breath work, and your meditation all in a single activity. But for those who are able and who really want to dedicate themselves to these practices, I recommend, in addition to your basic Qigong practice, also have a good, strong calisthenics routine, so you'll be physically fit and athletic. Also have a dedicated breathwork practice for all the benefits that brings in terms of vitality and fitness, and physical and emotional healing, and also have a dedicated meditation practice primarily for the spiritual benefits, because the kind of characteristic thing in meditation and in Neigong, in spiritual Qigong, is that movement is really good for health. Movement is very important for health Qigong, for overall health and well-being. But for cultivating higher states of spiritual awareness, you got to sit still and you got to go deep inside. And that's what stationary meditation is particularly suited to, is spiritual development. So it depends on what your goals are. If you want to be overall health, wellness, and everything, then a basic moving Qigong practice is good for that. If you want to go really deep into your spiritual practice, then stationary meditation is good for that. Although you should also meet your body's need for movement as well, because that's important. Which is, if I was going to be a monk, I would definitely want to be a Shaolin monk. I wouldn't be, because I would want to be in good physical shape too, not one of these kinds that just sits all day and gets a big Buddha belly and is way out of shape. They may be very spiritually developed, which is great, but that's not what I want. I want to have be spiritually developed and be in good shape at the same time, which the Shaolin monks do, of course. So it's it's a matter of what your own priorities and aims are. But for pretty much anybody, I would suggest not neglecting the body in pursuit of your spiritual practice, but as much as possible keep things in balance, and also don't neglect your spiritual practice. It's not just about moving and breathing; it's also about the internal energy work, the mental concentration, the contemplative awareness and mindfulness. That's what gets you the benefits from the practice.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much for telling me all about that, Dane. And I have one more question: is how can people find out more about this?
Yeah, well, we have an online learning community that people can join, and we also have a free group on Facebook. It's called the 7-Day Qigong Non-Challenge, and it's called the Non-Challenge because it's designed to be so easy there can be no excuse not to do it. And this is for anybody who wants group support and accountability with developing a personal daily mind-body energetic hygiene practice. Anybody who's been shooting on themselves about, oh, I should start exercising, oh, I should start meditating, this is a perfect opportunity and excuse to finally get around to it and incorporate a quick and easy daily exercise, breathwork, meditation practice as part of your daily routine. And for those who just want to start doing that and run with it, that's great. There's a whole 90-day series of videos you can follow along with. For those who want to go deeper with their practice and get more personal support, that's what our online learning community is for. And if you're lucky enough to be in San Diego, we also have a meetup group that you can join. It's Chai Tea Tai Chi on Meetup, and although we have online classes there as well Saturday morning, so you don't have to be in San Diego actually to join that. But the 7-day Qigong non-challenge, you can find that group on Facebook. That's a great place to dip your toe in and find out what it's all about. See if you like it. We're betting that after 7 days, it'll feel so good you won't want to stop and you'll be hooked. But we welcome you to try and find out for yourself.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dane, for joining us and teaching us all about Qigong and meditation today.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. I'm glad to have the chance to talk about this, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have and make friends. So feel free to reach out to us. We're here to support you on your lifelong mind-body mastery journey. So thanks for doing this, Andrew, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
All right. See you soon. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.